How did you get here?
I was born here.
And what made you decide to die?
Him.
What do you want from the Fuhrer?
What does he want from us? What does he want from Poland? Why all this? Why? Why? Aren't we human? Have we not eyes? Have we not hands, organs, senses, dimensions, affections, passions?
This movie is a comedy.
Fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases?
This speech is also from a comedy, though a very different one, written about 350 years before this movie was made. William Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice. Though modern audiences tend not to think of it as very funny.
If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? If you wrong us, shall we not revenge?
Of course, this movie had a hard time proving funny on its first release. Bosley Crowther, writing for the New York Times, in his review said, "To say it's callous and macabre is understating the case." Almost as if it was a little too soon to joke about the subject matter in, let me check when this movie came out. 1942. The Blitzkrieg smoke had yet to clear over Warsaw, and yet Ernst Lubitsch still chose to tell this light farce full of mistaken identities, disguises, a love triangle, all against the backdrop of literal goddamn Nazis. And the result is a comic masterpiece.
But suddenly something seems to have happened. Can it be true? It must be true, no doubt. The man with the little mustache, Adolf Hitler.
To Be or Not to Be is the story of a troupe of Polish actors in conquered Warsaw using their acting skills to impersonate Nazi officers and run circles around the occupation, with a through line of a love triangle between two star actors and a bomber pilot in a complex plot involving one of Shakespeare's most overquoted lines.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
This is admittedly not a Shakespeare adaptation. Not strictly. And welcome to the backdoor pilot for my new series, Cinema Antifa, where we look at movies about fascists getting their asses beat in various awesome ways.
Sound good?
Yes, sir!
Speaking of Tarantino, you can't tell me that he didn't get the idea of a plot involving Nazis in a theater from this movie.
Heil Hitler!
Heil myself.
That's not in the script.
One of the funniest running jokes in the movie is how easy it is for a troupe of hammy actors to mimic equally hammy Nazis, to the point where there's almost no difference between the people acting like fascists and the fascists themselves. There's a lesson in that somewhere. But honestly, summarizing To Be or Not to Be, or even trying to break down the complex plot and comic coincidences, would ruin the experience of watching it yourself. It's Jack Benny's finest screen role.
3 nights in a row. Even Shakespeare couldn't stand seeing Hamlet 3 nights in succession.
You forget you're playing Hamlet.
Oh, that's right.
Carol Lombard's last performance.
Shall we drink to a blitzkrieg?
I prefer a slow encirclement.
It's so complex and so witty and so wrong.
You know, you're quite famous in London, Colonel. They call you Concentration Camp Earhart.
Yes. We do the concentrating and the Poles do the camping.
What can one say but yikes? And if you've seen the Mel Brooks remake, it does fine, but telling the same jokes in 1983 makes it lose so much to the original's immediacy.
You know, Colonel, you're quite famous in London.
I am?
They call you Concentration Camp Earhart.
They do. Well, that's because we do the concentrating and the Poles do the camping. Get it?
Actually, no.
The original was made when the larger world knew something was terrible about the Nazi regime, but the full extent of its monstrosity had yet to be made public. And yet, it holds up.
War. It's really war. People are gonna kill each other and be killed.
It's a feat of comic tone, balancing the lightest of jokes with the highest of stakes. A balancing act that Hollywood would dub the Lubitsch touch. Lubitsch himself was a German refugee from the Nazis, a Jew who flourished under the German film industry and in Hollywood. And he was a marked man. And he knew it. He got name-checked in Nazi propaganda.
Der Jude Ernst Lubitsch wurde als deutscher Filmregisseur begrüßt.
The film was also written by 2 Jewish emigres, though for some reason, Lubitsch never uses the word Jew or Jewish or Judaism in this film. But even though his words aren't explicit, his coding is.
Mr. Lubitsch, what you are, I wouldn't eat.
How dare you call me a ham?
And of course, there's the way he uses that speech.
If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? What a Shylock you would have been.
Well, would he? Would he have been a great Shylock? I mean, of all the hashtag problematic characters in the Shakespearean canon, Shylock is one of the hashtag problematicest. Anti-Semitism was rampant in Shakespeare's England. Officially, the Jewish population had been expelled from England since 1290. When he wrote The Merchant of Venice, he likely wouldn't have known any actual Jewish people, though he would have known Christopher Marlowe's even more hateful play, The Jew of Malta, which includes a bit where the title character poisons an entire nunnery. And he was also, like Shylock, a moneylender. The stereotype of the Jewish moneylender had its roots in actual economic reality, since Christians were forbidden from practicing what they considered usury, or charging an interest, and since the Jewish people were barred from owning land or joining guilds, moneylending was really the only professional option left. As for the actual character of Shylock, moved to greed after repeated insult, he is one of the most difficult characters to play. For most of his early history, the character was done with a bright red wig, comically, broadly, though sympathetic portrayals could have been seen as far back as the mid-18th century. But it's a difficult character to play. Nobody is wild about staging this play. Even the Nazis weren't wild about staging the play. Not because of Shylock, but because of the fact that Shylock's daughter Jessica converts and marries the Christian Lorenzo. Nazis. But most, if not all, modern productions play Shylock for pathos. The play retains the structure of a Shakespearean comedy, all good parties married off by the end, with the lone antagonist ousted and humiliated, but modern audiences can't ignore the tragedy of Shylock's character. Denied his justice and denied his revenge, forced to abandon his wealth and his faith? History gave him a pathos that isn't present in the text. Well, except for that speech.
Aren't we human? Have we not eyes? Have we not hands, organs, senses, dimensions, affections, passions?
That speech quoted by everyone. Everyone.
If you prick me, do I not blink?
Everyone.
Hath not a robot eyes? Hath not a robot hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? If you prick us, do we not bleed?
Yeah, battery fluid, maybe.
It may be one of the greatest acts of humanist reappropriation that we've taken this villain speech from one of the most famously anti-Semitic plays in the Western canon and turned it into a universal plea for human dignity. Ultimately, using Shakespeare's ambiguous language and empathy for all his characters in favor of the anti-fascists. And moreover, using it to save the lives of the entire anti-fascist resistance. A comedy in a comedy, using the tragedy in the comedy to prevent tragedy in our comedy. There's got to be a better way to phrase that. Jeffrey O'Brien, writing for Criterion, called To Be or Not to Be's ultimate outcome a victory of art over life, using the Nazis' own penchant for theatricality against them, fighting theater with theater. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. So what else do you do with a bad actor but boo them off stage? To Be or Not to Be, a play that's literally life or death. And I leave you with one of the greatest one-liners in movie history.
That great, great Polish actor, Joseph Tura. You've probably heard of him.
Oh, yes.
As a matter of fact, I saw him on the stage when I was in Warsaw once before the war.
Really?
What he did to Shakespeare, we are doing now to Poland.
Goodbye, Colonel.
Goodbye, Professor.